What's up, YouTube? What's happening on? What's happening? What's happening, YouTube? Very Merry Christmas. Hey, listen, so I want to talk to you about this particular book right here by Michael Masterson called Ready, Fire, Aim, 0 to 100 million in no time flat. And also, I want to tell you a quick story about how one business or type of business has made $37 billion working with broke people. And I thought it would be an interesting story to tell y'all. So I'm at the home office here, and I decided to tell you about this particular business because the book that you just saw, Ready, Fire, Aim, is one of those books that I read at least once a year. Okay, once a year. Why? Because I like to refresh my brain, program my brain, and to making sure that you can grow your business. But um, it's an interesting concept because I get hit up by people asking me, "Oh, what kind of business should I get into?" Right? And or hey, I have this business idea, but I'm not sure how to actually turn it into money, right? Or I'm afraid to do this, or I have all these ideas. I'm a visionary, and I have all these ideas, and I just need someone to help me be able to turn those ideas into money. And the truth is this: is that the fastest way to figure out if your idea is good is to simply go out and sell it, right? Which is the idea from the Ready, Fire, Aim, which is to actually really go out and sell that concept or an idea and make your first dollar, okay? And when you start doing that, you'll start finding out that your ideas might be a little crazy, but it's actually profitable. Or you might find out that the idea is just absolutely garbage and a piece of shit idea and it doesn't make you anything, right? And it boils down to this concept of this new thing that's going around in our world, which is right now, especially the internet world. If you're outside of kind of internet land and internet marketing, and then it might not apply. But this idea now, because I see ebb and flow of stuff that happens in the internet world, right? I started selling internet products back in 2005, 2006. So it's been over a decade of selling stuff on the internet, and the new concepts, or I don't even call it new concept, but the concept of high ticket sales, right? People are like, high ticket sales, we need a sales floor, an inside sales associate to sell my product and services, and I'll hire these salespeople and they'll make me a bunch of money. And or hey, you know what? I'll be the actual salespeople for this and be able to turn it into money. Okay. Now, not to say you cannot do that. Okay, it's a viable system, but I remember when I first started back in the days, right? That was a huge thing. Okay, like no one in the internet land sold products less than $1,000, right? Especially the information publishing world, they'll sell stuff for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, $10,000. And then as the recession happened, right, people started dropping prices and people started selling more of like the $100 stuff, $200 stuff, 17 bucks, 20 bucks, right, and that kind of stuff. And now as kind of the economy has picked up, it's going back to kind of like high ticket sale. And I think it ties in perfectly with this idea of the $37 billion that this particular industry made just working with broke people. Now, what am I talking about? This $37 billion income stream that this industry or people in this industry use to actually make money. The answer is this: overdraft fees. Overdraft fees. I saw that stats the other day and I was like, damn, okay? And it's a conversation people in kind of like the mastermind group have had, which is how do you actually make money, right? And the interesting stuff about banking and the banking system is that in 2017, they made $37 billion hitting people with overdraft fees. Think about that for a second, okay? You're basically making $37 billion on people that can't keep enough money in their checking account because they're not making enough. And they made $37 billion, ladies and gentlemen. I saw that stats and I was like, whoa. Wow. Okay. And then the crazy part about all of that is that when people say, oh yeah, high ticket sales, I don't want to work with people that are broke. It's not, can't make money. I'm just like, dude, that just means your product and services you're selling them does not tie into it. Okay. So the point and message I want to give to y'all is that when it comes to business, when it comes to making money online, when it comes to running any type of business, okay, it doesn't matter what business that you're in as long as you have a good strategy to be able to extract the income out. For example, okay, one of the businesses that we may get into right now is we're heavily looking into is the idea and concept of buying non-performing debt. Okay, in this case, looking at buying non-performing judgments. Okay, now, why are we doing that? Is because currently, right now, we are in the real estate business, and back in 2010, I heavily investigated a lot on how to buy non-performing debt, right? Because as the recession happened, people started defaulting on their mortgages. So I started looking in, how do you actually buy non-performing debt? And if you don't know about non-performing debt, there's tons of those, right? Like mortgages, credit cards, right? Judgments and stuff like that, student loan, right? And things like that. And there's so many, whatever loan that you have, car notes and stuff like that, it's considered quote unquote debt. And if you didn't know this, you know, the people who hold that debt, okay, will typically simply write that off as bad debt, and they'll send something called a 1099-C, which is cancellation of debt, to the actual borrower, which the borrower then get hit with the quote unquote phantom income. And then from there, guess what? The businesses write it off, okay, as a bad debt. Now, one of the ways the businesses make money off of that is they'll do two things. Number one is that they'll partner with collection agencies to go collect on that debt, okay, by either hiring them, and or or the collection agency is hired pro bono, or in a case of like making commission based on what it is. Because instead of writing it off, if they can make some money, it'll be super cool for them, right, for the business owners. So that's one way. The other way is that they'll simply sell the debt, right? So for example, I talked about this on my Instagram account, I think about, what, 6 months ago, where I looked at a note of credit card debts, right? One of my friends actually showed it to me, and this credit card debt was in all state of California, and the age of that debt, it was about 8 years or so, okay, on average. And they had credit card debts in there from Bank of America to K Jewelries to all kinds of stuff in there, right? Like I think they had like Citibank in there as well, Capital One, and they had these balances of over, I want to say, 10,000 borrowers that defaulted on it. And then they were selling this, right? So I believe the face value at that time was about $10 million, okay? $10 million in loans that were not paid, okay, to the banks, and they were willing to sell that to us for, I think, like $2,000, $3,000 or something like that. Okay, think about that for a second. $2,000, $3,000. And not only that, right? When you buy that actual debt, guess what? They give you a portfolio, like a spreadsheet of that, and they give you all that information, like FICO score, your social security number, last employment, right? Sometimes even bank account information and things like that. And then you simply go collect on it. So for example, at a lower level, the average person owed maybe about $3,000 or something like that, right? Based on the number of borrowers. So imagine if you bought that at pennies on the dollar of like $100. Now, if you go out and hit up the borrower and be like, hey, the person who defaulted on, be like, hey, buddy, you owe this money, then hey, you know what? You need to get on a payment plan, or hey, you need to actually pay us, right? Then it will come out what? They say, we'll settle this for you for half of that, $1,500. And then some people say, no, sure, no problem, let's settle this, right? And then you collect the $1,500, but you really bought that note or that defaulted paper for $100. Now you made $1,400. Now you might be saying, oh my gosh, that's a terrible business to get into. Why are you even entertaining that, Jeff? Okay, is that, number one, I don't think it's a terrible business. I think if people have obligations, they should be able to actually pay it. And then number two, it's a really good business to go into, especially as I believe that we are going to enter into a recession. And on top of that, I think even with the recession, people are going to have certain assets that you can go after. So it's one of those businesses that I'm very, 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 very interested in getting into. And then on top of that, I have superior knowledge that other people do not have. So imagine that for a second, right? A $3,000 balance that you can acquire for $100, and then you simply collect on it for $1,500, and then that delta difference is $1,400. That's essentially your profit. Okay, and that's what's possible. And it's kind of different businesses that people don't know about. Why? Because it's taboo to talk about. Okay, and then people just have this idea that it's just bad and ugly and stuff like that, not realizing that, hey, you know what, that type of stuff exists. Okay, So the ones I'm interested in actually really acquiring is something called abstract judgments. Okay, abstract judgments tied to real property. Okay, real property as in real estate. So for imagine this for a second. Okay, someone owes a house of, let's just say, $400,000. They have a first lien position of $300,000, but they have a judgment on there, an abstract judgment of $100,000. So that means if you add the 300,000 plus the 100,000 is a total aggregate of 400,000, but the home is worth $400,000. Okay. Now, when that happens, then guess what? Typically, those individuals are not just simply behind on that judgment, but they're behind on other stuff. So now at that time, the homeowner is going to typically do what? They're going to say, hey, let me sell that particular property via short sale or something like that. Now, what if you can go ahead and acquire that judgment without any money out of your pocket? Okay, money out of your pocket. And you can absolutely do that by actually, quote unquote, getting a purchase agreement from the actual person who owns that judgment and having them assign their actual rights to collect on that money over to you as the investor, or you as the buyer of that particular debt, with a delayed purchase of that actual delayed payment of that until after collection. So imagine if you do that, boom, what that can do instantly. If you can acquire that $100,000 judgment for $10,000, you instantly have $90,000 in equity position that you can have. So imagine if these people actually try to want a short sale or something like that, and it's worth, as I said, $400,000, but it's in good condition or whatever, and you say, hey, no problem, we'll short it for only 50,000. It becomes 450. You owe that judgment 10,000. That difference of that 50,000, 10,000 will be 40,000 going into your pocket, right? So those are some of the stuff that we're currently looking at right now. And, I don't even know if I should talk about that with y'all, but that's something that we've been looking at for the last 60 days now, because I see the market shifting, and the market is to stay ahead of the market. That's one of those things that I think everyone and anyone in business should do. So that's kind of my message to y'all today, is that, hey, if you're looking to start a business, you want to grow your business, or you're simply just curious on how the world works, right? It's not what it seems to be, ladies and gentlemen. There's so many stuff that's going on. The question is, are you asking the right question to be able to get the answer? And are you asking the right people those questions, so that way you can get a better insight, a counter perspective of what the normal people say? Because if, again, like imagine like I'm telling people that I'm going to go buy bad debt, what are they going to say? Oh, you're crazy, Jeff. What did they even pay you? How did you think that they're going to pay me? Right? And so they'll be like, it's not going to work. And I'm like, cool. And that's one of the reasons why people stay out of those types of businesses and stuff like that. Right? So that's what I got. I love you guys. I'm going to get to work, and hopefully you got value. If you did, let me know. Leave a comment in there, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.